Johnny Bairstow is shocked and probably confused. It's almost as if he's thinking, how is anyone supposed to play that ball? He's been there before himself at the Oval in 2021. If anyone knows that sometimes there is nothing you can do when Jasprit Bumrah bowls a Yorker, it is Johnny Bairstow. But the really important thing to remember is that Yorkers really aren't a test delivery. This is a length-based format, and Bumrah is bringing his best delivery, a rubber and white ball device, and crushing the base of test stumps. He is the limited overs bowler without limits. Bumrah is not the first great Indian seamer. That's obviously Kapil Dev, not to mention that Srinath and Zahir were also fantastic. But Bumrah is not like them. He is a product of the T20 era, and he is the evolution of fast bowling when you look at everything that has ever gone before him in red ball, white ball, and I suppose rubber ball cricket. Since his return to cricket after a back injury, Bumrah has picked up 59 international wickets at an average of 16 runs each. He had a stellar World Cup and is taking a test wicket less than every 4 overs. Calling him the best all-format bowler, or cricketer I suppose, is actually an understatement. The question we should start to be asking is, how good is he? But I think we should focus on this. Is Bumrah the most complete bowler cricket has ever produced? So if you need a VPN, go Nord. Use nordvpn.com/Kimber to get a huge discount off your Nord VPN plan plus 4 additional months for free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. Protect your computer like a cricketer protects its nether region with NordVPN today. Most of the great batters in the world have been done by Bumrah, and that actually started right from the beginning. In his first IPL match, he dismissed Virat Kohli. In his first ODI and T20 international, he got Steve Smith and David Warner, and on his test debut, it was AB de Villiers who had to go up against him. That would be a career highlight for many very good bowlers. It's barely a footnote for Bumrah. He has now dismissed Root 8 times, Williamson twice, and Steve Smith once. He has a combined average of 32.63 in tests against the defining batters of his generation. But why does he actually bother the best players? Let's start with the basic. Test batters look for prompts from bowlers when they come in to give them an advantage, and Bumrah's action gives them far less than what you would normally get. He attributes his action to copying many different styles and his small run-up to playing a lot of tennis ball cricket. And we've seen many of these kinds of stories before when it comes to tape ball cricket. They help bowlers develop certain unique skills even before they are ready to play at the top level. All-rounder Ben Cutting has talked about how batters never really face anything like Bumrah's action growing up, and over time you can get used to him. But for the players who haven't faced him much, you can see that they struggle to pick him up. They look like they are batting on delay. He also has 2 other advantages. He has hyper-extended elbows, and that allows him to have an unusual release point. Basically what that means is it feels quicker than what the speed gun actually says it is. And time is an important part of batting. What separates the greats from the rest is their ability not to be rushed. People talk about Rohit Sharma or AB de Villiers having that extra second and a half. Someone like Bumrah just takes that away. It means he is around 4 to 5 kilometers per hour quicker than his actual recorded pace. But of course this action also makes him a little bit more injury prone. So after Bumrah came back from injury, an NCA coach talked about how he had to make certain adjustments to his action so that he can avoid getting hurt in the future. He says that Bumrah now has increased his run up by 2 to 3 more steps and has a bigger follow through. Those tweaks might have been quite handy, but he didn't actually need to change how he was bowling at all. In 2015, I did this piece on AB de Villiers, calling him the best all-format batter. Not just across formats, but also just the fact that his game was perfectly suited for every different kind of cricket. And you have to say that along with Virat Kohli and David Warner are right up there as well. But to be fair to all those 3 guys, none of them are better test batters than Steve Smith, who is not himself a white ball great. Ben Jones from CricViz put out a tweet about this kind of thing very recently. And in the last 6 years, there is certainly an argument that not only is Jasprit Bumrah the best all-format bowler in the world, but he is possibly the best bowler in the world in every format. He has the best average in Test cricket since his debut. Now obviously it's from a small sample size, only 34 matches. But he also has the 9th most wickets, and he has played 82% of India's matches outside of Asia and only 25% inside. Some of this is because of his injuries, but he's also been rested a lot because A, India can afford to do that with him, and also B, they kind of want him to be as fit as much as possible. Also, on some of the wickets that India prepared at home from 2021 to 23, they didn't really need Jasprit Bumrah. His countrywide split is exceptional. He has the best average by an Asian seamer in both Australia and South Africa, where of course he did bowl on some very seam-friendly wickets. In England, he has the best average by an Indian seamer with at least 20 wickets. New Zealand is really the only country he averages over 30, while he has a sub-10 average against the West Indies, but both of those are from only 2 matches. But when you look at this in total, what you are seeing here is a record of someone who can swing the ball, seam it, and make it bounce at pace. That is a fantastic combination. Most great bowlers can only do 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of those. Bumrah does all of them. And from his record in India, which is only 6 games, there's certainly enough evidence to say that he has the skill to manufacture wickets without really needing any assistance. And of course, great Asian seamers kind of have to develop this because the pitches that they play on in first class cricket and often in test cricket are not made for their kind at all. And reverse swing is an extremely important skill if you want to be an impactful seamer inside of Asia. And we've seen Bumrah use it on multiple occasions. He even says that he learnt that before conventional swing, which again shows just how different he is to most bowlers. So while he's a seam bowler, he's definitely a product of Asian seam. And when you look at the best Asian seamers on that continent, and of course Bumrah is not on this because he hasn't played enough games yet, you can see that the all-time greats are usually reverse swing experts. And Bumrah is definitely that. But of course, he is effective all the way through test matches. And unlike most bowlers, he's not heavily dependent on one part of the game or the other. His numbers in overs 61 to 80 are absolutely incredible. And again, that's probably going to be reverse, right? And of course, we could show you all these different parts of his test record so far. But how about this? Jasprit Bumrah currently has the 2nd best bowling average in the history of our game after Sid Barnes. Take a pause. Sure, he debuted in the peak of the pace-playing pandemic. Not as easy to say as I thought it was going to be. The wobble ball and result-orientated pitches have been a big part of his game. But after 34 matches, to only be behind Sid Barnes is something incredibly special, even if it doesn't end up lasting his entire career. In ODIs, Bumrah is a rare defensive attacking bowler, and that means that they are not only exceptional at containing runs, but they also pose a constant wicket-taking threat. Only Rashid Khan has a better economy and average than him, and a lot of that is skewed against playing a lot of weaker teams than Bumrah does. Let's compare him to one of his teammates, Shami, who has a better average but concedes 1 run more per over than him. Bumrah's numbers more than hold up in every single phase. He can swing the ball both ways early on, has variations up his sleeve to get wickets in the middle, and keeps a lid on the scoring rate, and then completely closes down the death overs. He has the best economy rates by seamer in each phase since his debut. And you might have noticed that we've been talking a lot about true economy rate and strike rates in T20 for a while now. Because when in a game that you bowl and bat matters a lot in limited overs cricket. So Ritwik Mishra did the number crunching for the IPL seasons previous to this one. That allowed us to come up with an extensive database. And the idea is just to provide context instead of just looking at the raw numbers. From 2013 until 22, Bumrah has the 3rd best true economy among any bowlers and the best of seamers. Only Sunil Narine and Rashid Khan are better. And again, like most of the players in that list, he has a negative overall mark when it comes to true wickets. The point is that this guy is so good that teams try and block him out in a 20 over match. That of course helps the other bowlers in their attacks. And you can see again, he is very economical in each phase, but he is above par wicket taker only in the middle overs. So while he might not be a strike bowler in the IPL, that's partly because of how good he actually is. I'm not saying he wasn't a good defensive bowler beforehand, but teams have made him into that because they are terrified of him. And when it comes to internationals, he also has the 3rd most wickets for India. Above bowlers with 50 wickets, he has the best average economy and strike rate for all the seamers. In fact, only Kuldeep has a better record. And of course, he was dropped when he was struggling. So it is in no way a stretch to say that Jasprit Bumrah is now in the league of the best test seamers like Rabada and Cummins, who obviously have a far bigger sample size so far, but is also the best defensive seamer in every phase of white ball cricket. And yet, for all of this near perfection, a constant narrative about Bumrah among some Indian fans has been that he's a choker. And I suppose when you have a player who is the prototype of a near perfect fast bowler, fans need to find a way to actually find a problem with him. The conversation usually goes like this: can he do it in World Cups? Well, in the last 250 over editions, he has the second most wickets after Mitchell Starc, while also having the second best average behind Mohammad Shami. And those are two World Cup giants we are talking about. And of course, and it goes without saying, that he does it at a much better economy rate than either of them. But can he do it in an all-important semi-final? Well, he did actually bowl pretty well in the 2019 edition, where he took early wickets. He was the second most economical bowler for India and seemed to be a real threat in that power play as well. What about doing it in the final? Guess what? He took 2 early wickets and made 1 billion Indians briefly believe they were going to win that World Cup. If anything, he failed to take 5 wickets and win the game on his own. And of course, what about crunch moments in tests, which isn't really a thing, but that's a different conversation. If Bumrah failed in the Vizag test in the 4th innings, some fans would have called him a choker again. And you still hear people say that he can't close out games. But of course, he already did that against England in a tough match position not that long ago. And then there is the rest of the crowd who believe that he skips India's games on purpose to be fit and ready for the Mumbai Indians. Since his debut in international cricket, he's bowled the most overs by an Indian seamer across formats. So you can see that there's some flawed logic there. His body is not great, but it's also his action that gives him the ability to bowl as he does. You can't praise the results without understanding that his uniqueness is also more fragile. And let's think about some of the things that are very rare about him. He thinks like a spinner who bowls at 90 miles an hour. This is him bowling at Lords like Ashwin, coming around the wicket, pitching it in line and using his slow ball ability to spin it back to the stumps. Not to forget that he set this up by bowling bounces beforehand. Tactically as a bowler, but also in the field, he clearly thinks about the game a lot. And you can see that he is actively involved in giving suggestions, and he became the first Indian seam bowling captain after Kapil Dev at Edgbaston. In fact, Andy Roberts pointed out the exceptional game sense he has when India toured the West Indies in 2019. He also compared Bumrah's ability to adjust lengths to Courtney Walsh. And of course, it would make sense for a white ball bowler to be good at changing his length, because that is one of the main skills that you need in that format. But the West Indian I want to compare him to is Malcolm Marshall. For many, he is considered the greatest fast bowler ever. But more importantly, he was accurate, skillful, fast, and he used both seam and swing. He mastered all the skills of fast bowling that were available to him at that time outside of reverse swing. And Bumrah uses everything that Marshall had, but he adds white ball skills like great Yorkers, slower balls, reverse swing, and the wobble ball. Plus, while Bumrah isn't that tall, he gets a lot more bounce compared to the short West Indian. But while Marshall was arguably the best test seamer, well, ever, and certainly during his period, he was not even the best ODI bowler in his team. With Bumrah, you could argue he's not only the best bowler in each format of cricket, but also if you look at all the different parts of the game, he might also be in the top few in each actual over clump of every format. Not to mention that you could also claim he's one of the best bowlers of each delivery type as well. Currently his career is 34 tests old, and there are genuine shouts for him already being the greatest Indian fast bowler ever. And it would also be nearly impossible to suggest that he isn't the best all-round bowler of this modern generation. The real question at the moment is just how long he can play at this level. Because this is a bowler more perfected than any bowler before him, and even when you compare him to others of this decade. He's a vastly better white ball bowler than Anderson, is way more accurate than Rabada, streaks ahead of Cummins in limited overs, beats Hazelwood all round, has more tricks than Bolt, and can attack and defend unlike Starc and Shami. And it isn't that some of these bowlers aren't great, it's just that they don't have all of his various talents. Jasprit Bumrah can beat you with pace, accuracy, swing, seam, bounce, thinking, wobble ball, slower ones, Yorkers, unique action, and 80 mile per hour off spin. Almost everything that a fast bowler could use, he has, and he's perfected it. Jasprit Bumrah is the evolution of fast bowling. A lot of people complain that I'm not a former cricketer, and so that I don't really know the game. Well, you know what they can't claim? then I don't know desks. I've been using desks for years. I'm a collector of desks, old and new, and I'm sitting on a new one right now. I'm the Don Bradman of sitting at desks. So when I tell you that the E7 Pro next generation height adjustable desk from FlexiSpot is legit, this is like Michael Jordan talking to you about sneakers. This desk holds 160 kilograms. It is as stable as anything I've ever seen, and it has under-desk cable management. But really, the main skill here is that this desk rises and falls at the push of a button, and it moves super quick. And it has so many settings that remember your favorite heights. It really does it all. And I could not recommend the E7 Pro from FlexiSpot anymore, even though I am currently sitting on one of FlexiSpot's BS12 Pro multifunctional, adjustable, upgraded fabric, ergonomic chairs. My butt and computer have never been happier than when using one of FlexiSpot's products. So get over to their page right now for big savings.